Hey there, Algebra 1 students. I wanted to go over a few questions from the practice test before you take your test tomorrow. So here are a few of the questions. Find the axis of symmetry and the vertex of the graph of f of x equals x squared minus 6x plus 7. There's this handy dandy formula that can help you find the axis of symmetry of a parabola, and it's x equals negative b over 2a. You should write that down if you have not written that down already somewhere. So then it's a matter of plugging in b and a appropriately. So b is negative 6, a is 1, and so you'd have negative 6 over 2 times 1, which negative times a negative is a positive, 6 over 2, which is 3. And so your axis of symmetry is x equals 3. And then 3 is also the x-coordinate of your vertex. So you plug in the 3 here as well. And you would say you plug in the 3 into the equation here for x. So you do 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 7. And 3 squared is 9. 6 times 3 is 18. So it's 9 minus 18 plus 7, which equals negative 2. And so that's how you get the y-coordinate for your vertex. So your vertex is the point 3, negative 2. Okay, we had discussed briefly number 6, but I will go over it a little bit more here. It says identify the graph of f of x equals 3 times the quantity x plus 1, quantity squared plus 2. Well, your vertex is hk when the parabola is in the form a times the quantity x minus h squared plus k. So because there's a plus 1 here, that means that h is a negative 1, right? Because the formula is minus h, and this is a plus sign, that means the 1 needs to be negative in your vertex. The k is positive, so that's still positive. So your vertex is negative 1, 2. And so if you have all of these graphs to choose from, identifying the graph of 3 times the quantity x plus 1 squared plus 2, you found your vertex, it's negative 1, 2. So these two are eliminated because they do not have the correct vertex. So that's the first thing I would do. The next thing I would do is I would plug in a point like 0. I would plug in 0 into this equation here, 3 times 0 plus 1 squared plus 2, and find out where this parabola crosses the y-axis, right? So 0 plus 1 is 1, and 1 squared is 1, so 3 plus 2 is 5. So it's crossing the y-axis at 5. And if you're down to these two graphs, this one is crossing, it looks like at 3 and not 5. So that is not our answer. Here, this one is crossing the y-axis at 5, so this one is our solution. Okay. There was also a question on question 14. It says identify the zeros of f of x equals 3x squared plus 12x minus 36. And so the first thing you need to do is you need to factor this and set it equal to 0. So I factored out a 3, and I got x squared plus 4x minus 12 equals 0. And then I broke that trinomial down even further. I got x plus 6 times x minus 2, well, and all of that times 3 equals 0. Well, x plus 6 and x minus 2, when they multiply, they give you that trinomial, right? But you have to take each chunk and set it equal to 0 and solve for x. So you have x plus 6 equals 0, you subtract 6 from both sides, you get x equals negative 6. And if you have x minus 2 equals 0, you add 2 to both sides and you get x equals 2. So your solutions would be negative 6 and positive 2 for number 14. Now, this next question was kind of interesting. They're asking you to plot only the x-intercepts, the y-intercept, and the vertex of this parabola, f of x equals x squared plus 4x plus 3. They only want you to plot these points. They don't want you to plot any other points. They don't want you to connect the dots, just those points. So the first thing I did was, I was like, oh, y-intercept, that's easy. Anytime you have a parabola in the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, c is where it crosses the y-axis. So here, it's crossing the y-axis at 3. Boom. Okay, well, what about the x-intercepts? Can we find the x-intercepts? Can we factor this? Yes, we can factor this, right? Things that multiply to 3 are 1 and 3, and oh, hey, 1 and 3 add up to 4. So we would factor this x plus 3 times x plus 1 equals 0. Set each chunk equal to 0, right? So you have x equals -3, x equals -1. So you'll want to plot those points. So if I've plotted the y-intercept and the two x-intercepts, I can see that my vertex is going to be halfway in between the two intercepts. It's always that way, okay? The vertex is always halfway in between the two y-intercepts. And so we need to find the y value that goes with that. So you plug in the -2 because -2 is between -1 and -3, right? So -2 squared plus 4 times -2 plus 3. -2 squared is 4. 4 times -2 is -8 plus 3. If you add all of that up, it is -1. So your vertex is at the point, -2, -1. Boom. Those 4 points are what they are looking for in this problem. Do not plot any other points, just those ones, okay? And we'll do one last problem here. 2 gyms open their memberships to the public. Compare the gyms by calculating and interpreting the average rates of change from week 2 to week 4. So I calculate the average rate of change. That's basically a slope calculation. It's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? And so we want to compare week 4 to week 2. So we do 99 minus 53 over 4 minus 2. And we get 46 over 2 equals 23 for gym A. 23 people per week. And that's actually the first block that you have to fill in. That's 23. Similarly, we do the same calculation for gym B. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So it'd be 128 minus 72 over 4 minus 2. And we end up with 56 over 2, which is 28. And so that's what we would plug in here. Gym B membership increases at an average rate of 28 people per week. So Gym B membership is growing faster. All right, that is all I have for you today. I hope you are well. Stay safe. Keep showing your work. We'll see you next time.